Well, I truly view the oceans as our cradle. I mean, we know that all life originated actually in the water on Earth, right? So sometimes when you know actually that the proportion of salt in our blood is the same as the proportion of salt in the seawater, then I really kind of think that we're sort of pockets of humidity, sort of fighting, to dry up on land. So I think we're a bit nostalgic of our, the oceans in general. And there's two ways to relate to the world. You can either reconcile with the world, or you can try to transform it against some ideals that you've set for yourself. And I think what happens when we're at sea or under the sea is actually a reconciliation attitude, where you find that a lot of people find it very soothing, very at peace. So you're very at peace with yourself. And so I think that's what the oceans do to us in general. They just really soothe us. My history with the ocean goes way back because I was brought up in North Africa, in Algeria, so we used to go to the water and to the beach every weekend. So after that we moved to Paris. I was completely disconnected from water for at least 6 or 7 years, and then I moved to Hong Kong when I was 14, and that really reconnected me to the water. Although it was really just staying on the surface, because I picked up sailing in Hong Kong, but didn't do any diving here. By far my most memorable experience with the oceans is a dive that I was lucky to do all the way up to 1,000 meters on the east coast of the United States. So that was in a submersible, and that was mind-blowing. That was magical. It was very strange, very different, diving with the deep-sea creatures. But I mean, I couldn't go on forever on that topic. Another memorable experience was not exactly a very joyful experience, because that was the tsunami. And I was in Thailand at that time. I was on the beach with my family. So obviously, you know what happened. So you know the rest of the story, and the story was not very good. But that, plus a friend of mine here in Czechia who died of a kayak accident, actually, because there's a wave that came and just turned the boat over, and he was like visiting inside a little cave. That really gives you this experience of the might, the sheer might of the oceans. And I think once you've experienced firsthand, you don't tend to really forget that. Then again, last September 08, in Hong Kong, there was a big typhoon, number 8. And I had to come home at night to Sheko, and we had to go along the beach. And it was a very high tide, plus the typhoon. The water was really amazing. We had to go home in between waves, and those waves, it was dark, it was very, very scary. And then the next morning, of course, we saw that the trees had been pulled out and everything, so it was really quite powerful. 我住在香港的时候，在80年代，我周末都会到大龙湾去。我还记得我第一次去的时候，我还在想，那里一定是地球上最美丽的地方之一。去年7月，我的朋友家船在。我会到那里，但是刚刚下完大雨，所以整个大龙湾都充满塑胶废物，根本不可能下水，所以我感到非常惊讶。9月台风过后，Sheko也出现了类似的情况，整个海滩都是塑胶废物。尤其是发泡胶，我觉得情况好像是海洋把我们丢进海里的废物，全都吐出来，要还给我们。突然间污染非常明显，真的不堪入目。Well, obviously pollution is a big issue. The way we use plastic and we throw it, and actually we don't think of it, but when we accept a plastic bag in a shop, it usually ends up in the ocean sooner or later. And what happens is that plastic is not biodegradable, but it is photodegradable, meaning that it's going to break up in little fragments and little pieces, and those pieces become very good surfaces for pollutants to attach. So the plastic and the pollutants enter the food chain through the use of these plastic debris floating around. Huge plastic all over, gyres around the oceans. And so the plastic is actually entering the food chain with the pollutants all the way up to predators. So the toxins accumulate in their tissues, and so it actually ends up, we pay the high price for all that. So the pollution, I think, is bad. The plastic is bad, and probably the water recycling in Hong Kong is not sufficient. Well, the general public should bear in mind that we really are the ones who can make a change, because our individual actions are the only ones that really count. If we all do the right thing, it's all going to be, very good news for the planet. Our governments are always going to be late. I mean, that's one thing one should really bear in mind. So I think lots of individual actions should be considered. Using fully recyclable products, like really staying away from plastic as much as you can, and try to favor, using glass, which is, a very natural product. Eating the right seafood is very important. So choosing the right seafood, and generally, I think it's very important to bear in mind that we eat 5 times more protein in general in developed countries than we're supposed to. So staying away from, fish and meat a little bit and eating more vegetables is actually good for health. It's not just good for the environment, it's actually even good for us. So I think we can start with this.